Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Good morning. Welcome back to the Standard 81 podcast. My name is Sincere, and we got another video for you today. Today, we are going to be discussing, ladies, we are understanding men. I've got 5 points for you to check out. But before we get started any further, let's go ahead and take a quick 30-second break, and I'll be right back with you here in three, two, and one. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, but before I get started into this one, first, go ahead, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, let me know that you're rocking with me. Second of all, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. This helps the channel grow and the content get out to more people. Third, make sure that you comment down below. Let me know what you think about the content and what I am talking about. Whether you think it is good, bad, whatever, indifferent, let me know what you think. And last but not least, share this with somebody who you think needs it. And without any further ado, let's get started. Understanding men. All right. So, ladies, in order to understand the mind of a man, there are a few things you must know. Uh, Men are substantially different than uh, your counterpart. I once heard it said that a lot of ladies wish for the men that they hope to be with be more like their homegirls, except he has a penis, and vice versa goes for the man. The man is hoping that he gets a woman who is a lot like his homeboys, except she has a vagina. And to a certain degree, I believe that that is true, but the more you understand the differences between men and women, um, you understand why God uniquely made both of the sexes the way they do, and the need for both components in a thriving relationship, and not only in a thriving relationship, but a thriving society. Despite what the media, social media, and anybody else may try to tell you, we need both. Um, God made it that way. He had it laid out that way. And I believe that to be true. But I'm not dealing with the fellas right now. I am dealing with the ladies. We need to get, in order for you to get the type of man you're looking for, which a lot of ladies seem to all of a sudden at a certain time and point in their life, especially in this day and age where things are a little bit crazy. Well, not even a little bit crazy, a lot crazy, and things are starting to get very hectic and tumultuous. A lot of ladies are beginning to look for men who have higher qualities, not just money, higher qualities. But there are a few things you must understand about the type of man you are looking for. And I have a 6 point. I know I said I had five, but I have a 6 point that I want to touch on. But that's going to be towards the end of the stream or the podcast today. So let's go down the list. Number one, never ask a man a question about himself or his feelings that you are not genuinely concerned about. That is number one. Why do I say that? Because most guys have a hard time being vulnerable, anyways. And to ask them a question about themselves or about how they're feeling, only to negate that and talk about yourself, or negate that feeling and talk about more, or deflect it and talk about more how you feel, it just qualifies him to keep silent. And it verifies the fact that you don't really care anyways. You never really cared about the question. You just wanted, you just wanted the idea of vulnerability from that particular man. If you don't really care to hear the answers, or you feel like you may not be ready for the answer you hear, don't ask the question. Don't ask the question. Because when you get the answer, there is a 50-50 chance that you may hear something that you don't like, or you may hear something that you don't agree with, or you may hear something that you genuinely just don't care about. I'm not saying that there are any stupid questions, but one of the questions I hear a lot on social media now is, "Man, are you okay?" And I commented on a lady's post on that and saying, "Please stop asking that question, because most of you don't genuinely mean it. You just want to ask that question when you are looking for somebody or looking for something." She happened to mention how her and her friend had just got out of a relationship, and they were currently on the dating market, and she couldn't find anybody to be vulnerable or open up or wanted to substantially do anything in the way that she thought. And the reason I commented that is because I don't think she was genuinely concerned about the guys that she was interested in. The only reason she really asked the question, in my opinion, is because she wanted something from these group of men. And just wanting something from somebody is different from being genuinely concerned. All right. So no man wants to answer a question that you're not genuinely concerned about, because what you're going to get from most men is, "I'm good, I'm cool," or "Oh yeah, I'll figure it out." So please don't ask a question that you are not genuinely concerned about. Point number two: men compartmentalize everything in their lives. For the most part, if you're looking for, if you're ladies, if you're looking for this not high value guy, if you were looking for a good guy, as I'm hearing so many people talk about on social media, you got to know that that man has different compartments and different departments for everything in his life, and things are set in a priority scale from top to bottom. And until you become a top priority, he's going to put you in a compartment, because we develop different from ladies. Now, I'm gonna show you this book that helped me realize a lot of what I was saying is true, and in a lot, and some of the stuff that they say on social media is true. When you start doing the research and studies, and you start really analyzing and then reading books and all that other stuff, and begin to talk to people, you start to genuinely realize that some of what's out there is true, and then some of it is just. So this is the book. I refer to this book a lot of times. Men think like waffles, women think like spaghetti. And if you don't have this book, all right, and you're looking to get married, or you're looking just to understand the opposite sex, I would recommend this book 100%, especially if you're a Christian, because this is a Christian author. Um, it's it's made by Bill and Pam Farrell. I'll show you the back here. All right, I hope you can see that. And they counsel Christian couples, and they were trying to figure out genuine problems between men and women, because that's what they were running into. Of course, they dealt with a lot more married couples, um, rather than just engaged couples or single individuals. But they were trying to figure this out, and then they started to realize, between doing all their studies and all their researches, that men and women think different. We don't think alike. So One of the concepts that stick out in this book is that men, when you say men think like waffles, you've seen a waffle before, how they have little pockets, little compartments, right? And that's and what guys can do, which might make you think that we think a lot like you, is they can switch and swap from compartment to compartment rather quickly, especially if they're close together. But for the most part, a guy don't like the other one thing touching another. It's like, okay, it can be in close proximity, but I don't really want it to blend in. Whereas with spaghetti, you notice that there's a thread, right? There's a thread all the way through. So all these things connect, and boop, 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 boop. And a lot of times women don't understand that. Why don't you get where I'm going with this? Because in his mind, that's a whole different compartment. That's a whole different thing. That's a whole different subject. So when you're talking to a guy and when you're talking to a man that you like, you have to realize that if you veer into something else in a totally different space, we are not going to follow that train of thought. Because in our minds, it doesn't have to do with what we're talking about. It's not logical. For you, it sounds perfectly fine because these things blend into each other. It's like a spaghetti strand. And that spaghetti strand continues until the end of that particular thought, and then you move on to another strand. So whether the strand is long or short, they all just kind of blend in. Whereas guys, we don't do that. It's like, okay, we deal with this, and then we deal with this, and then we deal with this, and then we deal with this. It can all be within the same conversation, or it can all be within the same realm of thought. But you have to close one and then jump into the next one, and then jump into the next one, and then jump into the next one in order to make it seamless. We don't do flowy. If you hear a guy talk more about energy and all this other stuff that you hear a lot of the ladies talk about, either A, he's hung out with a lot of females, or B, he's been raised by a single mother and he hasn't had too much of a male impression on his life. It's just a true factor. It doesn't mean that he's less of a man. It just means that he hasn't grown to the point to where he realizes that the reason he is not functioning the way he in an optimal position is because he hasn't learned yet to compartmentalize, and this is why he's highly emotional, highly irrational, so on and so on. Right, ladies, that's what you got to realize. But I could go off in a tangent on that. That's what you got to realize. 3, a well-disciplined and responsible man is going to seem boring because he is a man of routine and habit. I'm going to repeat that one more time. A well-disciplined and responsible man seems boring because he's a man of routine and habits. The problem that I keep on hearing young ladies say that they're having with finding a good dude is once they get him and they start the working out the relationship and developing and all that good stuff, they go, he's boring. He never wants to do anything. He's going to seem boring because he has discipline and structure. I've talked about that in one of my streams, in one of my podcasts, and I don't even remember. You got to go through and check the videos, and I need to do some sorting through the videos myself. But a good guy, a good man, is going to have structure, discipline, and order in his life. So it's going to seem like oh man, he don't really like to do nothing. It is not that he don't like to do nothing, but like I said, he compartmentalizes. So his priorities fall in alignment. And then after all that's done, after all the departments are done, then he can go to the empty department and begin to fill it up. But each day he gets up, his life is structured. That's what makes him the responsible individual he is. That's what makes him the well-rounded man he has become. It's not because he's out there doing the most and out there doing all sorts of things and wilding out. That's what young men do. Why do I say that's what young men do? Because when you're younger, you're trying to figure all this out. And this is why young men need fathers, so that they can help them in that process of figuring out structure, discipline, responsibility in life. I know that I wouldn't be the man I am today without my father. My father was an ex-Marine as well as an ex-athlete. He taught me a lot about discipline and structure while giving me ample leeway to explore in different avenues and find out the things that motivate me and give me room to resolve that and solve that and see if it's going to work and all that good stuff. But that's what good men do. That's what good men have in their lives. They have structure, they have discipline, they have organization. And at times it's going to seem like, man, he don't like to do nothing. He just, it's too much. But remember, once again, this goes into we think different. For the ladies, it flows through. We don't do it like that. And if you, in order for you to really get a good man and stay with that good man, you have to realize that it's going to seem monotonous. It's going to seem day to day, which brings me into the next point. Most men are not very social or spontaneous. We are structured. It's just a fact. Most of us are not spontaneous. We or very social. We're structured. Now, some of us have learned to how to maintain a healthy social interactions, but me myself, I'm a homebody, and I know a lot of guys that are. We don't need a whole lot of association with other people. We don't need a big, a massive circle of people around us. We need a few friends. We need some mentors, some guidance. We we need certain things in our lives in order to keep that structure and that framework going. But for the most part, we're very minimalistic. So when I hear a young lady say, "I want somebody who's fun and adventurous," and all, that's on you. That's you. Remember this, God created Adam and he put him in the midst of the gardens for him to manage and work. Then he created Eve as a helpmate. Now, as the years have gone on, he said it wasn't, as the years have gone on, things have changed. But here's the main component. God recognized it wasn't right for the man to be alone, or it wasn't good for the man to be alone. So he created her as a source of not only companionship, but to give him uh, a way to socialize and entertain. This is why networking for ladies is so easy. This is why they can get together in massive groups and talk about a bunch of stuff. Whereas guys need interaction before we start talking and yammering. If you've ever looked at guys when they go out, when guys go out, we initially don't really speak to one another in the beginning, whether it's a trip or whatever the case may be. We kind of say hi to each other and then we kind of stick to ourselves. And then once the activity is Hold on. Hold on. So once the activity is beginning to progress, then the guys start talking because now the interaction is there. Now the motivation is there, and the intrigue is there, the fun is there. And now we can begin to socialize with each other about what's going on. Whereas when the ladies, when y'all get in the room, y'all just talk about whatever's on your mind. You talk about, and I'm not, and I let me preface this by saying this. This is not every man, and that's not every woman, but the vast majority. This is why I said most. Most. There are always exceptions to the rule, but we're not talking about the exceptions. We're talking about the general consensus. The general consensus is that we are structured. And then once we start opening up, then you'll see more of it. A guy can be very interesting and very fluent and outgoing and all that good stuff, but you got to put him into the right position. He's not just going to be overly dynamic. What you're looking for is that alpha male, uh, very charismatic guy. But if you're not willing to take what goes along with that particular man, then I'm gonna tell you that 90% of the good guys that you're looking for, they not that outgoing. They not that dude. They go to the process of socializing and stuff like that and doing different things is going to be slow. They're going to get to know people. They're going to evaluate. They're going to scan. They're going to do everything before they actually begin to open up and let themselves be vulnerable. And it's a defense mechanism, but defense is not always a bad thing. Sometimes those defenses are the very things that keep you safe. Because see, let me put an example out there. Let's say you're in an environment such as I do security for my church, right? Where you're in an environment where everything is loose and free, but then there's always the possibility of something happening. Now, if everybody is just loose and free and not paying attention to anything, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in, you seen what happened at Joe Stocks, um, Joel Osteen's church with the shooter. Now, granted, they didn't get that lady didn't get far, or that person didn't get far. I don't know what it was, but it had somebody not been on high alert and popped into action. Had those officers not been in high alert and popped into action, things could have happened. And that's going to be most guys. They're going to be paying attention to the environment and things that are going on around them before they loosen up and say, okay, it's everything's cool, everything's safe. I can start with the interaction. That's what, last but not least, a man who makes a woman his first priority cannot lead. Now, let me say that one more time, just so I can get this, so that nobody gets offended. A man who makes a woman his first priority cannot lead. And this is why I said I had a 6 point. A man who makes a woman his first priority can't lead because he doesn't have a path to follow. He is depending on the intellect and the knowledge of his wife to guide him into his purpose, when that is not who is supposed to be directing him. Which brings me into the 6 point, and I'm gonna tie it in. A and I hear this a lot on social media. I want a man of God. Well, here it is. The 6 point. A man who is following after God's heart is going to put him as a priority first. A man of God is always going to put God as his number one priority, and then everything else just kind of falls after. Now, if he has a wife, that wife is probably going to be his second priority, and then his family, meaning his kids and whatever else. But if he puts that woman on a pedestal and said that's his first priority, he's quickly going to be confused because he's going to be off of his purpose, off of his square. He's not going to be listening to the one that's guiding his footsteps. Therefore, he's not going to be able to guide his family and fulfill his purpose in which he was put on the earth to fulfill. You want to be if you want a leader, ladies, he cannot put you first. He cannot. And despite what people, he needs to put his purpose first. And his purpose, if you're looking for a man of God, is always going to be God first and then everything else. So, in conclusion, with all this, if you are looking for a good dude and you want to understand some of the reasons why good guys look a certain way and they act a certain way and they don't seem as outgoing and they may not seem like the type of guys you normally with, because they're not. They are not. They're probably not. They may look all right. This has nothing to do with looks, but you may not understand it because they do things different. They're going to be well disciplined, structured. They're going to compartmentalize. They're not going to put you first. Doesn't mean you're not a top priority, but it just means they're not going to put you first. Because you are not meant to lead. Does this mean you don't have any input? Absolutely not. You should go, if a man is looking for a woman to be his wife, he should be looking for her input and see how she can better enhance his life. But having said that, that's not his first source of counsel. He's always going to go back to the Lord first to find out what's going on. And that's all I really want to say. Guys, check out the Standard 81 podcast over there on TikTok. I got tons of videos up there, as well as the Instagram at Sincere the Artist. The link is in the bio, so you can check all that stuff out. As well as give me that thumbs up, share this with somebody you know that needs it, subscribe, and put a comment down below. Type in second watch if you're watching this after the stream is done. I appreciate you all, and I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great day. Peace.